Good morning, everyone. All right. So it's my great honor to welcome you to the White Coat Ceremony of St. George's University School of Medicine, class of 2029. Woo! I would like to recognize the presence of the following: Dr. Charles Modica, Chancellor and Mrs. Modica; Dr. Gaurav Dayal, Chief Executive Officer, Medfoot Global Health Education; Dr. Glenn Jacobs, Provost; Dr. Marios Lucas, Dean of the School of Medicine; Dr. Mark Clunes, Senior Associate Dean of Basic Sciences; Dr. Robert Grant, Senior Associate Dean of Clinical Studies; Mr. Gary Belatrachowski, Vice President, Student Operations and University Registrar; Dr. Brendan LeGrenade, Vice Provost for Institutional Advancement; Dr. Michael Keenahan, Assistant Dean of Students, Director of Clinical Academic Advising, and our keynote speaker for today; Dr. Alyssa Hall, Scientific Director and Career Educator, Advanced Digital Education at Mayo Clinic, and the Bourne Lecturer in the upcoming clinical meetings; Dr. Daniel Ricciardi, Executive Vice President, Clinical Development; Dr. Lucy Clunes, Dean of Students; Dr. Lucy Eugene, Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences; Dr. Mohammed Bayat, representing the Dean of the School of Veterinary Medicine; Dr. Satish Badesi, representing the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies; the Associate Assistant Deans, Chairs, and Heads of Departments within St. George's University School of Medicine; other faculty members, staff, specially invited guests, family, friends, and most especially our students. As a proud alumna of this institution, I know firsthand the meaning and significance of this moment. The white coat is more than just a symbol of entry into the medical profession. It represents a commitment to compassion, integrity, and lifelong learning. It is a visible reminder of the trust that patients will place in you and the responsibility that you have to carry as future physicians. Today marks the beginning of that journey, and we're here to honor your dedication, your potential, and your path ahead. I'd now like to share with you a brief history of this ceremony. In 1993, the Arnold P. Gold Foundation created the White Coat Ceremony at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons to promote humanism in medicine. With guidance from the Gold Foundation, St. George's University School of Medicine initiated its own White Coat Ceremony in 1996, long before many other US medical schools. In 2003, the Gold Foundation founded the Gold Humanism Honor Society, an international society dedicated to the promotion of humanism, professionalism, and ethics in medical practice and medical education. Dr. Arnold Gold passed away at the age of 92. He was an international advocate for humanism in healthcare, and we are honored to have hosted Dr. Gold and his wife Sandra as keynote speakers for our spring 2005 White Coat Ceremony. The St. George's University chapter of the Gold Humanism Society is based in the Department of Clinical Skills and is supported by the Dean of Medicine's office. Our chapter established the Humanitarian Student Organization in 2009, through which our basic sciences students promote humanism across the SGU and Grenadian communities. Chapter members are nominated by their peers and inducted during their clinical training when they participate in an ongoing chapter project. So it is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium Dr. Glenn Jacobs, Provost of St. George's University.
Good morning. Great to see all of you. On behalf of the St. George's University administration, I would like to welcome all of you to SGU and the island of Grenada, or better known as the Isle of Spice. I would also like to welcome those of you that have joined us online. Once again, a warm welcome to our Chancellor, Dr. Modica, and our CEO, Dr. Dayal. It is great to have both of you present here with us today. And a special word of welcome to all the parents, family, and friends present here. This is indeed a memorable occasion for all of you, and I would like to thank you for what you have done for your students. I am sure that you are very proud of them and they of you. We are grateful that you took the time to visit our beautiful campus and island. I also enjoyed meeting many of you last night and all the discussions we had at the barbecue. Now, students, we are very pleased that you have joined our great university, which has a legacy of success. The moment you arrived in Grenada, you became part of our SGU community. This community will be your support system throughout your stay in Grenada. Now, other speakers here today will tell you more about the symbolism and the meaning of the white coat. But as you become part of this community, one of the most important lessons I can share with you today is the value of being kind and nice. Now, there's an old saying, it's nice to be nice. People like nice people. And more importantly, kindness makes a difference. Now, just in how others perceive you, not just in how others perceive you, but in how you feel about yourself. Being nice is more than just good manners. It's about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It's about treating others with respect, being considerate, and upholding the highest ethical standards. As future healthcare professionals, your academic knowledge and skills will be critical, but your kindness will be just as important. A kind word, a moment of patience, or a gesture of genuine empathy can provide comfort in ways that medicine alone cannot. And when you act with kindness and integrity, it gives you something invaluable: peace of mind and true contentment. So, as you put on your white coats today, remember that this is more than a tradition. It's a commitment to uphold the values of your profession, to treat your patients with kindness and compassion, and to support one another through the challenges ahead. So enjoy the island with your loved ones present here today. Celebrate. Take them somewhere local. Have some Galileo soup and just become and show them part of this great community. Once again, congratulations. Welcome to this incredible journey. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Marius Lucas, our Dean of the School of Medicine.
Welcome, everyone. First of all, apologies for my voice. I normally don't sound like this. I sound far more poetic, since I'm Greek, so, a lot of history even in my voice. So, first of all, congratulations for being the new inductees in this class. You came to the right place and the right time. I want to remind to everybody that St. George's University matched over 1,000 students this year, and we're the #1 provider of physicians in the United States, which is a great, great accomplishment, and you're going to be one of them. The second thing that I would like to stress out to everybody is something similar that Dr. Jacobs mentioned. #1, we need to be kind. I'm going to take it a step further. We need to smile. Whenever we see each other, a big smile in your face, everybody wants to work and associate it with people that they're happy personalities. I'm sure you don't want to hang out with people that they're all the time miserable and complaining and all that stuff. So let's make it a habit. We're smiling, we say good morning, and life is good. #2, life will not be good. Because it will have challenges. And that's, I guess, the beauty of life, that it has challenges. So what we do when we have a challenge, especially in medical school, that there are going to be a lot of challenges, we ask for help. So number two actually, ask for help early. Don't wait till a disaster happens, and you don't need to have always a problem to ask for help. You can be the best student in the class, and still you can ask for help. Tiger Woods has a coach, right? So constantly gets help to get even better. And many other athletes like Giannis Antetokounmpo and so on. Number three, as we said, you ask for help, you're all happy, but still there are challenges. You're not alone in this trip. Your loved ones, that they are back home or they are even here in Grenada, they are stressing out together with you. So best thing to do, give them a call. I have a 20-year-old daughter. One of the things that we have done is that we're talking now more that she's not in Grenada, she studies abroad, to call me every day and say, Dad, I'm good. And I can tell from her face and everything. Now she's a good actor, so I think she hides a lot, but that's a different story. But give them a call. It's very, very important, you know, in a WhatsApp and said, Mom, Dad, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you have, I'm good. And that will, you know, ease up a little bit that whole journey, make your life and their life much, much better, right? With all this, I would like to congratulate you one more time that you made it so far, and we're looking forward to see all your great achievements that you're gonna achieve in the next couple of years. Congratulations again. I would like to invite the Senior Associate Dean of Clinical Studies, Dr. Robert Grant.
Good morning. So I'm from New York, and if you have the opportunity to be a New Yorker as I am, you may get to see an occasional show on Broadway. One that's been playing for a while is called Hamilton. I mention it because it is a very interesting story of a person whose sentinel years were spent in the Caribbean and then went to America and made quite a name for himself. So the parallels for those of you who are American citizens spending time in the Caribbean and then moving back to the States to pursue your careers as practicing clinicians has been made into one of the successful Broadway shows in history. And following upon the theme of smiling, remember the advice that was given to Aaron Burr, smile more and talk less. One of the highlights of Hamilton. As your Senior Clinical Associate Dean, I'm here on behalf of the clinical faculty who will begin to mentor you when you get into the third and fourth year of the experience. Those clinicians are fantastic teachers and mentors, and now those ranks are filled with many SGU alumni who serve as fantastic near peers for each and every one of our students who come through the clinical enterprise. They're leaders in our surgical and medical pediatrics and obstetrical, all of our clinical specialties, residency training programs. They're also fantastic leaders in medical staff societies, as well as their regional, local, and national specialty societies. The depth and breadth of what SGU contributes to healthcare, once you see it in action, as I'm blessed to do as I visit our clinical sites, is absolutely amazing. When I was given advice at the early stages of my career as a medical student, the theory was you just needed to master the 3 A's. The 3 A's being ability. I have to make sure because I'm going to add 2 more. I want to make sure I don't add the 2 too quickly. Availability and affability. I'm going to add 2 more to that in a second. When you're able, it means you have the core knowledge that you need in order to be what we say that taking care of patients, competence is the first kindness. But competence isn't enough, and that's why medical school isn't enough. That's why you do residency training, and that's why it's called the practice of medicine, because no one gets it all right all the time. The reason that you do residency training and what you will enjoy most as a practicing physician will be the ability to not just know the science of how human beings work, but also gain insight into what makes human nature tick. I call this development of your EQ, your emotional quotient, as much as the development of your IQ. We will develop your IQ and challenge your fund of knowledge, I think, weekly in exams, and that will continue throughout your medical career. Physicians are the most tested of all the professions. But never forget, always remember, that the most important aspect of the physician-patient relationship is something that will never be replaced by an AI robot. And that's the ability to be with someone in their time of need and to help them, whether it be with a straightforward illness or if they're passing from one stage of life to the next. The next part of the 3 A's is to be affable. I had a wonderful career before being recruited here to St. George's as the Senior Clinical Associate Dean, spending almost 40 years in New York City at Columbia and Weill Cornell. During my time at Columbia, I met Dr. Gold. Dr. Gold showed with his own mannerisms what it meant to be affable to patients. Dr. Gold was a pediatrician. He was also about 4'11", which I guess made his career choice very affable because he could see eye to eye with his patients a whole lot more than I could. But even though he was closer in their size to them than I was, he made such a difference in the ability to connect. And just seeing that play out before me as I was doing my rotations in pediatric surgery really reinforced how important it is to connect with your patient and be empathetic. In other words, see the world through their eyes. The final A that I was taught was availability. And that was a very simple bit of advice at the time was if a referring doctor or a patient calls you, you're on call 24/7, be available to them. But as I think about it, availability has a much deeper meaning. It means availability not just in terms of the time of day, but also available as a person relating to another person. And this is where it comes in to tie the connection between self-care, burnout, and your ability to be effective caregiver. You can't take care of somebody else very well. You can't smile, you can't be empathetic unless you take care of yourself and your family first. You've heard, as you all came on the plane here, if something happens and the oxygen mask drops down, put your own mask on before you help somebody else. That is a fantastic analogy to think about when in terms of making sure that your availability isn't just about time of day, it's that your availability is there as a complete person, the physician, to care for the patient. The next A that I'm going to add is accessibility. Accessibility is critically important. And one of the things that I am so impressed about St. George's and its alumni is how you go back, you, the collective graduates, you will do this. You go back to the communities from where you came, and you provide those members of your community access to the kind of health care that they really need. The medical industrial complex that exists ever since the Flexner Report for over 110 years perpetuates the same kind of producing specialists over and over again. And we need specialists. God knows I was one of them. I had a wonderful career. But when you look at the healthcare needs of the United States, Grenada, and the world, we need doctors who know their communities and will be able to respond to the healthcare needs of those communities. And I assure you, each and every one of you will play a significant role in that. How do I know that you're going to play a significant role in that? Because the latest statistics show, starting in 2030, that we are going to have a severe uptick in the need for doctors. So the really good news for all of you who are either taking loans or whose parents are helping you financially, who have figured out ways to finance your education, is that beginning in 2030, there's going to be a lot of really good paying jobs out there for you. AI is not going to take your place. So celebrate the fact that you have the best employment prospects of any group of learned young people that I've ever had the opportunity to stand before and speak. Finally, I want to talk about accountability. That's the last day I have today. Accountability. You heard the dean say, do the right thing. You're all adults. You know what the right thing to do is. If you put the interests of your patients before your own personal interests, and most importantly, before your own financial interests, you will never, ever have a difficult day as a physician. When it comes to the practice of medicine, that's what it means to do the right thing. Put the patient first. Simple words to say, really challenging words to live by as a professional. One of the things that's really interesting, too, about the clinical practice of medicine is all of the changes that have come and coming at an increasingly quick pace. For those of you who read the Wall Street Journal, you saw there was a recent give and take about, is medicine a job or a profession? And I'm shocked to see people calling medicine a job because it's a calling. You're going to have to be thinking about your patients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're doing a hospitalist shift or whether you're holding yourself to our recommended clinical exposure time policy of 50 hours a week or a residence policy of 80 hours a week. Once you get to be a consultant or attending physician, there are no limits on your quote-unquote work hours. You need to be able to understand that this will be such a demanding call on all of your person. But I can tell you, we pick the best and the brightest because we know you're up to the challenge. And I can tell you as well that there is nothing more satisfying than completing a challenge that is harder and demanding of all that you have to give. Finally, I just want to say that while the white coat is a wonderful sign and symbol, remember, you can take the white coat off, but you can never take off the responsibilities that come with the privilege of wearing the white coat. Having said that, please do not let the white coat define you. The best thing about St. George's is the diversity and the richness of the community of people who comprise St. George's University. Please be yourselves. Be true to yourselves. Don't ever, ever concede your goals because you know what the right thing to do is. Do that. We are all exceptionally proud of you. I know that the future of medicine is in very good hands, and I'm particularly interested in that because I'm entering the stage of life where I'm meeting more and more doctors. So I'm so happy to see that we've got the next generation here who'll be available to take care of me and for others. I was a practicing reconstructive plastic surgeon, so I can tell you with medicinal authority that when I look out at this group of students, you guys are amongst the best looking people that I have ever seen. I'm a doctor, trust me, you know. I have the great honor and privilege now of introducing our Chancellor and founder, Dr. Charles Modica. Like me, Dr. Modica is a Long Islander. We share a lot of background and traditions together, from our ethnicity to many of the same kinds of activities outside of sports. We also share our commitment and devotion to St. George's University, although he, of course, came up with the idea and has lived it a lot longer than I have. Chancellor Modica, the stage is yours.
Good morning, and welcome to another island other than Long Island, where we come from. The nation of Grenada especially appreciates you here today. The April class is a new one. I think we're 5 or 6 years into April classes, so you would have either been an August or a January, but somehow you managed to be April now, and that's okay. It's a smaller number of students coming through, but important enough for an old guy like me, one of the founders, the last one still with us, and to be here. And you might say, oh, how important could that be? Probably has 10 other things to do today. I came in yesterday on American out of Miami, and guess what flight I'm going back on in a few hours? American. I came for you. And the reason I came here, like some of your parents and some relatives and friends online, is to pay my respects to you, to acknowledge that today is not just another milestone in your lives, but something that you need to think about as the day goes on. If you can, just break yourself away from your studies for a few hours and recognize that you have a higher calling, that you have the ability to fulfill the requirements for that, but it won't come easy. I can assure you that. I don't have an MD. I have a bunch of doctorates and a doctorate in law. honorary doctors as well, and I can tell you that in 1970, that's like between George Washington and Lincoln or somewhere back there. That's how old I got, yeah. I went to medical school in Spain. And in that year, about 10,000 Americans went to schools all over the world. I was unable to get admission into a U.S. school. Did the admissions committee tell me that I wasn't worthy of becoming a physician? Heck no. As I used to say to the charter class at the very beginning, if the admissions committee at Yale doesn't admit you to the medical school, but you get into Harvard, does it mean you're not supposed to be a doctor? Somebody determined that you're not qualified? No, there was no room in that school, in that time, in that place, depending on what state you came from. As you know, state schools have preferences for state residents, so it goes on and on and on. There's a lot of factors. And what happened is, I ended up in Spain because there wasn't enough room for all of the qualified applicants. And my Italian mother and father from Brooklyn, you know, the second generation Italians, my mom was so pleased when I told her I thought I might want to be a doctor. And maybe a year before, when I was in high school, I might have wanted to be a pilot. But Italian mothers hang on to doctor, trust me. So when I went to medical school in Spain, I was a very proud young guy, first in my family to graduate college, and now on my way to medical school. And I passed everything, approvato, approvato, approvato. That's how they did in those days. My mom got that report that summer in the snail mail. In those days, that's all there was, by the way. And she was so happy. And I was hoping I didn't get all approvados because I knew I wasn't going back. It wasn't in my heart anymore. I didn't have the resolve, the wherewithal, what you're going to have to stay here, to do it. It wasn't worth it. The studies were overwhelming, studying in Spanish. And I had a great resentment for the medical establishment for not having enough seats for people like me and all of my classmates. And I wrote a guide. Well, first of all, I went back and told my mom, about a week or two after that, approvato came in and that snail mail. And she was so happy, I'm getting ready to go back. And I said, Mom, I've been meaning to tell you something. I don't want to go back to school. And she goes, what do you mean? You passed everything. Only 1 out of 5 students or something could pass from the States and all that. And I said, no, it wasn't meant to be. She took it pretty well. She cried for about 2 weeks. I'm not kidding, by the way. Went to Mass every morning instead of just Sunday for those 2 weeks. And, but it wasn't meant to be. I was relieved when my grandfather came out from Brooklyn as the last chance of getting me to go back to school. And he understood I just couldn't do it. And he accepted that. And I was relieved. I said, thank God. He goes, we're going to go back home and talk to your mom now and let her know you're going to be a lawyer. And I said, what? This really happened, by the way. I'm looking at some of the parents over there. They can get this. I said, lawyer? And he goes, oh, I'm not going to go back and tell your mother you're not going back to medical school unless you want to be a lawyer. Well, in an instant, I said, yeah, I definitely want to be a lawyer. And the reason I tell you that is I got a Provost in Spain and worked my you-know-what off to do that. I went to law school not knowing much about the study of law. I wasn't pre-law, obviously. And out of a class of 300 in my freshman year, I was number 1. And the reason I tell you that is not to pat myself on the back, to let you know what you're about to go through, how difficult it is, and the resolve and dedication that you have to have, and the respect, yeah, and admiration. Yeah. I'm an old guy, I get teary-eyed easy. But it's real. You can do it, that's why you're here. The admissions committee said you can do it. You're going to work hard. It's going to be a lot easier than the charter class, I can tell you that. We have a couple of charter class members here. One is one of our executive vice presidents, and I think we have one of our parents who's going to White Coat, his son. I think it's a son. Yeah. Dr. Brandau was here somewhere, right? Yeah. These are the people that helped make the school what it is. They were the ones who, when I was kind of biting my fingernails, after we were a year and a half old and the medical establishment was attacking us, had the second highest pass rate in the world on the part one of the national boards. They called them national boards in those days. That was it. Once we did that, all the critics and skepticism was gone. Not all of it, but most of it. All of the reasonable skeptics were gone. That class set a standard. They had, you might say, well, they probably had half the facilities we have and what have you. And every brick, every building, every cement block, everything you see here was not here when they were here. They had an open-air lecture hall. The dormitories were 4 to a room, no AC, which didn't matter because the electricity hardly worked anyway. Water maybe every third day. We had a water truck bringing it in. And I tell you about their hardships because they had a spirit. They were going to do it. It wasn't me starting the school. It was that charter class that said, I like studying in English with U.S. textbooks and American and British faculty. I'm going to make this work. And I'm going to get a really high pass rate on those boards, and that's why we had the second highest pass rate in the world of any foreign school that year. So the importance to you is that you have many more things here, and also much more tuition to pay for them, unfortunately. You don't want to know what the electric bill is every day here, but I wish it would go out sometimes like it used to in the old days. I think it's about $30,000 a day, U.S., but I need you to know that when I say I respect you, I admire you, that it's real. And I want your parents to know how profound your decision to come here is for the nation, for the world. You're going to do a lot of good in your lives. And at the end of your studies here, there'll be this old guy in a bright red robe and with the school colors and all sorts of things, who will call you doctor for the first time. And that guy will be so honored to do that, you have no idea. God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Modica, and I'm sure our students are feeling very inspired right now. And it gives me great pleasure to actually introduce our keynote speaker on that note, who is Dr. Michael Kinahan. He is a highly respected colleague and, again, our keynote speaker. So Dr. Kinahan is a proud 2006 alumnus of St. George's University School of Medicine, whose career has come full circle from a student to teacher to physician and scholar and mentor. A board-certified pediatrician trained at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University, a bariatrician and pediatric care intensivist trained at Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, New York Presbyterian, Columbia, Mike spent over a decade at the bedside, caring for critically ill children and leading multidisciplinary teams in high-pressure environments while orchestrating over 45 training programs as Associate Chief Academic Officer for graduate medical education at Kings County Hospital. His contribution to the field also extends to research, with numerous publications and presentations advancing pediatric critical care, adolescent bariatric medicine, and quality improvement initiatives. Throughout his career, Mike has been instrumental in developing pediatric simulation labs, curricula, training programs, and critical care protocols, enhancing both medical education and patient care. but his deepest impact has emerged not only in patient care, but in his unwavering dedication to the next generation of physicians. After years serving at the front lines of pediatric critical care in Brooklyn, teaching both residents and SGU students, Mike relocated to Grenada as Professor of Pediatrics, Assistant Dean of Students, and Director of Clinical Academic Advising at SGU. Here, his passion for education and service continues, with teaching, providing faculty mentorship, and continuing to be invested in every student's personal, career, and academic success. Whether working with students, advising faculty, or serving his community, Michael Kinahan brings empathy, insight, and a steadfast belief in the power of human connection. His driving belief is one of service, of hope, and that excellence in medicine begins with integrity, kindness, and a deep commitment to others. So I take great pleasure again in welcoming Dr. Kinahan to the stage.
So I have no clue how I can top anything they said. It's like they read what I had originally wanted to say and took it all as their own. I mean, Dr. Lucas, like pure gold, reminding you to call your parents. He was not the dean when I was a student sitting in your shoes, sitting in your seats. So I didn't call my parents, and I still have a pretty bad record of calling them. But they may be watching today. So hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. And then, you know, Dr. Grant telling you to take care of yourselves, that's really important. And I don't know if we're that great at teaching you how to do that yet. And Dr. Modica, I mean, he created all this. And without him, none of us would be here. And the thing that resonated the most with me, which each one of them included, but it's definitely Dr. Jacobs, is just be nice. That's all you got to do. It's just be nice. In my fellowship, there was one of my co-fellows. He just wanted to do a nice thing, and we had a patient a teenage girl who was on ECMO, that's extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Her lungs weren't working, so she had to have her blood pumped outside of her body, oxygen added to it, pumped back in. And she wanted to go to the prom that we have in the hospital for kids who just don't get to go to their own prom. And everyone said this is impossible. And he's like, why not? What's the difference between the lobby compared to the ICU? So he got a team of about 15 people to enable her to go to the prom. And she was in a wheelchair, she was on the dance floor, and when she came back, she was exhausted. But that was like one of the nicest things. And then in the past, I've talked about my friend Danny Holmes, who is a SGU graduate, and she was working with me as a resident, and there was a patient that we had who was in Puerto Rico, and there was a horrible hurricane, and he had to get airlifted out, and he was paralyzed from the waist down, and didn't have a lot of joy in life, was living in a really bad situation, and got hospitalized because of how sick he got. And then while he was hospitalized, his house got broken into, and his one thing that he loved, his Xbox, got stolen. And Danny made sure that all of the pediatric residents donated enough money to buy him a new Xbox. Right? Just nice. Like, that has nothing to do with being a doctor. There was another student. So when I was attending in Brooklyn, in the ICU, there's another student, Jessica, SGU student, who, while we're standing there ready to do this painful and quite embarrassing procedure on an 18-year-old boy who had cerebral palsy, was slightly developmentally delayed. And we're there as me and the surgery attending getting ready, making sure we knew exactly what we wanted to do, how we were going to do things. Nurses running around making sure we're going to have the medications that we needed. I had maybe 3 or 4 students around. I had 2 pediatric residents, and there was 2 surgical residents and a surgical PA. So I don't know, was that like 13 people in the room? And our patient is there crying, screaming, very agitated, and we're so focused on what needs to get done. And Jessica just kind of pushes us out of the way and runs up to the bedside to just hold his hand. And she starts talking to him, explaining everything that we're doing, that everything was going to be okay. And we were standing there dumbfounded, looking at her like, oh my God, we're idiots. That's what we should have done. And it doesn't take an MD, it doesn't take board scores to be nice, to do something special for someone else, or to teach you guys how it is just to be a good physician. There's another SU student, Ian. This was a long time ago, like 2016. He was helping me take care of a patient who a few months ago had gotten in a horrible car accident and was in another ICU. He had a breathing tube in. That breathing tube caused a lot of issues. And now he's coming back to the hospital, to our ICU, because he had severe tracheal stenosis. His airway inside here was the size of a keyhole, and he really couldn't breathe. So they had to put a tracheostomy in. So he came back to us right after the tracheostomy, and he was depressed, just really down and out, wouldn't eat, wouldn't get up and walk, and those are the things he needed to do to recover. And Ian was really upset by this, and I said, don't worry, we'll call psychiatry, they'll come, they'll help him out, not a problem. That did not sit well with him. He left that day pretty not happy with us. And so he then called up his brother, and on Sunday, he comes in, on a Sunday, right, when he didn't have to be there, comes in with this box of Nike sneakers, walks into the patient room, I don't know what's going on, and the patient just lights up. And he starts trying to talk, despite that he can't talk, having the tracheostomy in. And Ian stays in there for, I don't know, like an hour, 2 hours. And then the next day, the patient's like, all right, what do I need to do to get out of here? He's up, walking back and forth through the ICU, making sure that he's going to go home soon. And it turns out that box of sneakers was some very special pair of sneakers signed by Kobe Bryant, who were secured by his brother, who worked for some media agency, and had them FedExed up on Saturday so he could drop them off, because Kobe Bryant was this patient's hero. And he didn't get to meet him, but it totally changed his life. It changed his care and how he wound up doing afterwards and beyond. Eventually got the trach out, did phenomenal. That one nice gesture and just being kind totally made him better. So now there's one man who I try to remember often about how I should be a physician. He was a mentor, eventually became a friend. This is Dr. Herman Mendez, pediatrician in infectious disease. So Herman originally came from Guatemala, but at a young age he had to flee because of political unrest and was in El Salvador. And then he went to medical school, and we'll forgive him for not coming to SGU because it didn't exist when he went to medical school. He graduated in 1977, and then he went up to Brooklyn to do his pediatric residency. And while there, he took a strong interest, this is about 1980, in these young babies and small children who were getting this horrible immune deficiency issue. At the time, a lot of it was called GRID, which is gay-related immune deficiency. But no one wanted to say that for the babies, and they called it immune deficiency syndrome. In 1983, it was known as AIDS. At the time, there's no cure. There's nothing they could do for these kids. A lot of staff was scared. Everyone was scared of contracting it. They didn't know how it was contracted. And so they wouldn't go into the rooms of their patients. They wouldn't really care for those patients. At some places, they would even slide food underneath the door of their room, and the kids or the adults would have to come get their food and eat all by themselves. But Herman didn't care. He would go in, he'd pick up those babies, soothe them, sing to them, and rock them to sleep. And you'd say, well, what about their parents? But a lot of their parents were dead, or they were dying of AIDS. And because of this, he and a number of other physicians and nurses in Brooklyn set up a way to foster these children and even get them adopted. And a number of these kids would wind up getting adopted, but they were very complicated, very sick, and didn't have a lot of hope in life. And as they grew up, if they grew up, they all would suffer severe depression and other behavioral disorders. And because of that, Herman, again, just to be nice, was like, well, why don't we get together, set up some psychological services, job fairs, things to just give hope for our kids. And they were able to, again, help this huge population of children who were so sick at no fault of their own, just to be nice. I got to know him really well with one of his patients, Jennifer, who she was a 18-year-old woman, again with HIV, who was difficult. And she was my patient when she got admitted to the hospital this one time. And she was frequently getting admitted to the hospital because she would run away from home and get sick, or she would stop taking her meds and get sick. And each time she would come into the hospital, Dr. Mendez, he didn't yell at her. He didn't give her a hard time. He didn't berate her. He showed her what true caring was. He showed her what real love was, because she never experienced that from her parents. She never knew her parents. Now, he would send me into the room, though, to berate her and yell at her and tell her she had to take her meds or else something bad is going to happen. But those meds she had to take, those horse pills 3 times a day, they were hard. But none of that would have been possible also without Herman and many of his colleagues, friends, and some family. They petitioned Congress, the NIH, the CDC, to be allowed to use these antiretroviral therapy medications in pediatric patients. And because of that, and because of all the work he did with maternal fetal transmission, they reduced transmission, at least in the United States, down to 14% or less. They were able to decrease it down to even almost 0 to 2% with all the medications. And in some situations of congenital HIV, it goes into the remission and is cured. So I'd like to imagine a 55-year-old man holding an infant who all night was screaming and crying and was totally inconsolable, tubes coming out of everywhere, the patient, not Herman, and just sitting there. And you'd never know the baby was so upset all night because he's now sleeping, just being rocked and having a Guatemalan folk song sung to him. And the reason this was the first time I ever met Dr. Mendez, looking through the glass window of the door, watching him, was because I had shown up in the resident room, and the residents were pissed off that Dr. Mendez wasn't there yet, and what the heck is he doing? We're supposed to start rounds, we're running late, and they sent me off to go find him. And all he was doing was just being nice and doing the right thing. So you have to be nice to yourself. But you also need to be nice to your colleagues, to your coworkers. Sometimes we forget that. And you guys will need each other much more than you will ever know. One of the worst things that can happen during your med school career, or even your career later on, is the death of a child or a death of a pediatric patient. And in pediatric critical care, we have that a lot more than most others do. And that's real hard to handle sometimes. In my fellowship, whenever we had a patient who died, we had to call the medical examiner's office to just review with them that there was nothing nefarious that had occurred. And they'll say, no, it's not our case, and that's that. It's just part of the process. But in probably one of the worst deaths I ever had, I had convinced myself that this was my fault. And so at 4 a.m., I get on the phone, I call the medical examiner's office, and it's not a doctor, it's an investigator, and he could hear in my voice that I was not okay. He then spent, I don't know, maybe the next 5, even 10 minutes telling me it's not my fault and that it'll be okay. He didn't have to do that. He could have just taken the case, said, this is not a medical examiner case. You're wasting our time, and hang up the phone. But he didn't. And that made a huge difference in my life. And then another one, remember that student Ian with the sneakers? So in 2020, April 2020, there was this thing called COVID, and it was in full bloom in New York City. We didn't have a single open bed. Everybody was super sick of this pneumonia that we couldn't make anyone better with. I was not taking care of pediatric patients. I was in a makeshift adult ICU taking care of 40 intubated patients. We had ventilators alarming constantly because of high pressures that we had to figure out. We had a patient having a cardiac arrest roughly every hour. We had all this other regular work to also take care of that we just couldn't keep up with. And so Ian shows up all gowned up, head to toe, and I'm like, Ian? Or Ian? And he's like, hey, Dr. Keenahan, I'm here with interventional radiology. We're here to switch out all the patient's lines for you. We know you're not going to get to it. What do you need me to do? And within an hour, he had switched out all the things that needed to be done. I think he ran 1 or even 2 codes while he was there. And he left, like that. Now, I had no clue that he was actually doing an interventional radiology residency at my hospital at the time. And he didn't stay down in radiology where it was safe, where there was no infected patients. And at the time, everyone was getting sick, and we saw a lot of people dying, so a lot of people were scared that they would, and we had staff who died from it as well. But he didn't stay safe. He came out just to be nice, just to help. So remember to be nice to your colleagues. Smile at them. One of the most beautiful things in the world is someone else's smile. So if you can smile, say a nice word, do a nice gesture, you're going to change someone's day, always for the better, and you don't know how strong of an impact you're going to have on them. And then the last thing is you gotta be nice to yourself. You know that voice inside your head that's saying, you shouldn't be here. How'd you get here? Did they make a mistake? Just turn that off, because you belong here. That other voice that says, oh my gosh, this is super hard. I'm never going to finish. You will. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Just learn from them. Own them. But don't beat yourself up over the mistakes you're definitely going to make. So Dr. Mendez, he passed away about a month ago. And I don't think any of you guys are going to remember him. I don't expect you guys to remember me at all. But what I want you to try to remember, if anything from today, is just be nice. Be nice to your patients. Be nice to your colleagues. And be nice to yourself. Because if you do that, you'll be uncommon, unwavering, and unstoppable. So I'd like to wish all of you congratulations, welcome you to SGU, and I cannot wait to call you doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for reminding us that being kind is just as vital to being knowledgeable when you're doing the practice of medicine. So I'm sure all of our future doctors here will be remembering that. St. George's University School of Medicine will now present you with a white coat symbolizing your entry into the profession and your commitment to uphold the duties and trust associated with medicine and medical training. So I would now like to invite faculty from the School of Medicine to take the stage, who will be our quotas today. So that includes Dr. Mayana Charles, Dr. Rohan Cummings, Dr. Rachel George, Dr. Tiffany Clemenson, Dr. Michonne Suku Pertab, Dr. Gabrielle Walcott-Bedeau, Dr. Dion Forrester, and Dr. Fumba Kani. So Dr. Sasha Lake, who is our Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs, will call each student by name and college. Those students who have with them today a physician, family member, or loved one will be quoted by those physicians. We'd like to ask you to please hold your applause until all students are quoted and keep the aisles clear for the duration of the quoting ceremony.
I will now like to call on the students from Blackwell College to be quoted. Marlise Etienne. Victoria Rosalie. Kayla Neptune. Arissa Nerve. Donovan Trujillo. Savannah Pajero. Samantha Pena. Bryson Pedrina. Knuckle Mehta. Natalie Mawad. Mehdi Khan. Aaron Mason. Debita Taylor. I will now like to call on the students from Curie College to be quoted. Damanpreet Tiara. Kiran Bands. Terry Wu. Sanai Theodore. Aman Dean. Rita Castillo. Tajini Lamore. Alexandra Trish. Anna McGowan. Gina De La Rosa. Peyton Fraser. Andrew Franco Bravo. Andrea Norman. Nia Enise. Gaston Rochelle. Mark Glenn Toronto. Mustafa Sarong. Lindsay Jasmine. Kimberly Ciccone. Carice Joseph. Adeyemi Adeniran. Joshua Shedrin. Maureen Tanner. Jonathan Jansen. I will now like to call on the students from Fleming College to be quoted. Amer Horasin Parakar. Maria Garcia. Madison Eck. Fatima Riyar. Buck Fraser. Aran Manna. Tiffany Duong. Victoria Rivas. Jayobi Opele Odo. Chris Na. Michael Kaler. Cheyenne Temple. I will now like to call on the students from Galen College to be quoted. Chan Watanak. Hassan Ikram. Yes, sir. Ali Sharifi. Daria Patil. Gina Sisodia. Karen Herizano. Jesus Aguilar Pinson. Veda Reddy, Shruti Ramasamy, Nodine Arintak, Sonny Raymond, Shelby Erickson, Damien Ujua, Nicholas Cleffy, Joyce Yip, I will now like to call on the students from Hippocrates College to be quoted. Josette Williams Castell, Laura Lee Harrington, Violet Silva, Kyle Juknowicz, Clive Virapol, Johannes Giesel, I will now like to call on the students from Mackinac College who will be quoted. Marcelino Abdelmise, Kevin Ribeiro, Pavan Kumar Yecham, Juliana Suarez, Rishama Ramnas, Mackenzie Henry, Hannah Vargas, Gio Gallo, Amina Henderson, Shreya Pudi, Yair Court, Akshi Garg, Janelle James, Olivia Pham. I will now like to call on the students from Matador College to be quoted. Sally Mesalem, Kavita Joshi, Abhijit Balar, Martij Dowad, Elias Ali. Dylan Howard. Antonia Garasi. Anthony Tran. Ella Umar. I would now like to call on the students from Peabody College to be coated. Zibanisa Malik. Lauren Velasquez Lopez. Laura Chambly. Kathy Robert. Nana Sopran. I would like to say thank you to the faculty from the School of Medicine for coaching our students. I would now like to call on the students who will be coated by their designees. Chloe Alicock, coated by her uncle, Dr. Rajesh Bishnath. Chase Brando, coated by his father, Dr. Kirk Brando. Joshua Adam Garafi, coated by his father, Dr. Darius Garafi. Samanvita Nomalar, coated by her grandmother, Dr. Nalani Persard. Anaz Fatai, coated by her father, Dr. Saeed Ali Fatai. Saeed Hassanein, coated by his mother, Dr. Zafisnan Rizvi. Gerard Philip Guevara, coated by his father, Dr. Rolando Guevara. Zachary Farias, coated by his friend, Dr. Stephanie Morin. Matthew Morin, coated by his mother, Dr. Stephanie Morin.
George, you're going to be my doctor.
All right, so I'd like to say again, congratulations to you guys, class of 2029. I would now like to introduce Dr. Anna Cyrus Murden, Assistant Dean for Simulation and SOM alumna, to lead you in the professional commitment.
Good morning. Good morning. Are you not excited? Yes. So let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So at this time, I will invite the class of 2029 to please stand and recite aloud with me the professional commitment listed in your programs. I would also like to invite any other physicians in the room to please stand and join us. This professional commitment was originally written by a student task force in 1995 and has been later revised in 2024. It has since been recited at each of our School of Medicine white coat ceremonies. Are you ready? Today is the beginning of my medical education and training as a physician. I acknowledge my responsibility to continue the pursuit of knowledge and understanding while recognizing the limits of my abilities and seeking assistance when necessary. I am entering training for a noble profession in which my interests must always be subservient to those who may seek my assistance. I must be ever conscious of the value of my fellow healthcare professionals and treat them with respect at all times. My classmates at St. George's University are now my colleagues, and I owe to them the same support and encouragement to achieve their goals as I hope to receive from them. I will work alongside my colleagues and professors with tolerance, compassion, honesty, and cultural humility. I will treat all members of the St. George's University community and its visitors with equity, regardless of rank, as I will do with my future patients. I acknowledge my obligation to adhere to the University Honor Code and to conduct myself with integrity and in an ethical manner at all times henceforth. Taking full responsibility for my choices and actions, I shall do all within my power to show in myself an example of all that is honorable and good throughout my medical career. It is a privilege to have been given the opportunity to become a physician. May I ever be conscious of this privilege and never abuse it. Congratulations to the class of 2025. Welcome to St. George's University. Please be seated.
On behalf of St. George's University, I would like to thank the Arnold Gold Foundation for the Humanism in Medicine pins that you guys all have placed on your white coats. Thank you, students, families, faculty, staff, administration, and specially invited guests for your support and your presence here at this ceremony. I would like to please invite you to join us for a reception in the open area of Modica Hall, where we can enjoy some light bites and drinks. And please remain seated and keep the aisles clear for our faculty and students to exit. And when you are exiting, please use the lower side doors as directed by the ushers. So again, congratulations, class of 2029, and thank you everyone for joining us today.